Before we get into the fire, before we get into the chaos and the burning roads and the 22 kids trapped inside a school bus surrounded by flames, let me tell you about Kevin. Because Kevin is the kind of man whose life has accumulated just a little too much loss for one person to carry quietly. He drives a school bus in Paradise, California, and I mean that word, paradise, because yes, that's the actual name of the town, and yes, the movie is well aware of the irony. He starts every morning the way a lot of struggling people do, just trying to hold things together for one more day. He's behind on maintenance reports. He owes timesheets he hasn't turned in. He's asking his dispatcher Ruby for extra shifts because he's got his dead father's medical bills piling up, his elderly mother to take care of, and an ex-wife somewhere in the equation. Ruby, who is kind but a woman running a bus depot and not a charity, tells him she doesn't have anything for him right now. Kevin says copy that and drives away. On his way home, he gets a call from the vet. His dog Elvis has cancer and it's spread. It's time to say goodbye. Kevin drives home, picks up Elvis, holds him in the vet's office while a needle is administered, and just sits there. He doesn't make a scene, he just holds his dog. This is not a small moment. This is the movie telling you exactly who Kevin is. A man accustomed to loss, a man who shows up even when showing up is the hardest thing. He gets home, and his mother tells him his teenage son Sean refused to go to school. Kevin goes to talk to him, and it goes the way conversations between struggling fathers and angry teenage boys usually go. Badly. Sean accuses Kevin of being a dropout himself, which is technically true. Kevin dropped out young when Sean's mother got pregnant. He made a choice and he doesn't regret the choice, but the consequences of it have followed him his whole life. The argument escalates. Kevin loses his temper, not violently, but loudly, the way exhausted people do when they've been holding everything in for too long. He yells. And Sean, because he's 15 and hurting and knows exactly which words will cut the deepest, says, "I hate you. I wish you were dead." Kevin has to leave the room to cry privately. If you've ever been a parent who failed a moment with your kid, or a kid who said something you immediately regretted, this scene lives in a very specific part of your chest, and it doesn't leave. Kevin doesn't get to fix it before the worst day of his life begins. The next morning starts the way a lot of catastrophic days start, ordinarily. A weather report plays on the radio while Kevin drives his bus. Day 210 without rain in Butte County. Red flag wildfire warning in effect. Wind gusts expected between 60 and 80 miles per hour. The kind of bulletin that gets half listened to while people are distracted by their own lives. Out in the canyon by Polga Bridge, a high-voltage transmission line owned by PG&E, Pacific Gas and Electric, has failed. A metal component breaks free in the wind and crashes down into dry grass. A trucker spots it from Highway 70 and calls it in immediately. With 2 fire engines from Oroville respond within minutes. These guys are professionals. They're not slow. They're not careless. But here's the problem. The road to the fire is a narrow mountain pass that can barely support the weight of the trucks. They inch forward, watching the hillside crack and shudder under their wheels. Eventually, the captain makes the call. This route is too dangerous. They have to pull back and find a different strike point. That detour costs time. And in a wildfire with 80 miles per hour winds, time is the only currency that matters. By the time they regroup at the command center, a staging area called Scooters on Highway 70, the fire is already 200 to 300 acres. The wind has pushed it down the canyon at a speed nobody was prepared for. The incident commander, Chief Martinez, assesses the situation. There's a small community called Concow about 8 miles away with 800 people. Retirees, homesteaders, people on the margins. He issues an evacuation warning. Just a warning, not an order. Paradise, a proper town of 27,000 people, is 8 miles on the other side of the canyon. The fire team considers it safe for now. They are wrong. Because this fire doesn't behave like a normal fire. 3 miles from the original ignition point, a second fire breaks out, then a third, and a fourth. They're appearing faster than anyone can map them, miles apart, in places that don't make mathematical sense for a single fire to reach. A firefighter named Hopkins is driving through Concow and radios in what he's seeing firsthand. Heavy smoke, burning embers raining onto rooftops, and multiple spot fires starting simultaneously. He's losing visibility fast. He says words on the radio that the command center really didn't want to hear. It's jumped the box. The box is the containment perimeter. The fire has escaped it, and not by a little. The incident commander comes to a realization that changes everything. This isn't multiple fires. This is one fire. One enormous, canyon-jumping, wind-driven fire that has been leaping miles at a time through the dry air. The perimeter they thought they were fighting is meaningless. The fire is now everywhere, and it is heading directly toward Paradise. The evacuation warning for Concow becomes an evacuation order. And then almost immediately, the phone lines go down. The town hall in Paradise receives the order to alert residents through the emergency alert system. The automated calls and texts that are supposed to reach 27,000 people simultaneously. They try to send it. The system is down. They sit there and stare at a screen that won't load, and outside the window, ash is already beginning to fall. Meanwhile, Kevin is still driving his bus route, trying to get back to the depot. He keeps calling Sean, no answer. His mom calls and tells him Sean has been throwing up and running a fever, which means he actually was sick this morning and Kevin yelled at him for nothing. Kevin feels awful about this. He stops at the pharmacy to pick up Tylenol. He gets stuck in line. Ruby calls on the radio and tells him to stop wasting time and get the bus back for maintenance. Kevin says copy that. But his ex-wife Linda calls. Sean has been texting her, wanting to come home. By home, he means her place. Kevin bristles at this and they get into the same argument they've clearly had 100 times. About reliability, about whether Kevin is the kind of father Sean deserves, about the years of absence and the distance that grew between them. Linda is leaving for Colorado tonight with her new boyfriend. She isn't being cruel exactly, but she lands a line that cuts, "There's a reason why your life is a mess and Sean doesn't want to be with you." Kevin hangs up. He leaves another voicemail for Sean. He apologizes for that morning. He promises to bring the medicine. He says he's coming home. Then, and this is the detail that matters, he realizes he never signed his family up for the emergency alert system. He kept getting the notifications from town hall asking him to register their phone numbers. He kept putting it off. His mother can't drive. If the alerts go out and they're not on the list, his family might not know to leave. He tries not to think about this and drives. The fire crosses the canyon. Not slowly, not in the way wildfires usually advance. Tree by tree, acre by acre. This fire crosses in the wind like a living thing, throwing burning debris ahead of itself, igniting rooftops before the flames even arrive. By 8:30 in the morning, Paradise is on fire. Hopkins, the firefighter in Concow who called in the spot fires, has loaded civilians onto his truck. Anyone without a car, anyone he could find, and is leading a convoy out. People are burning. He gets them to a creek called Hoffman Bridge and tells everyone to get into the water. Feet toward the fire, cover your airway, heads down. A burnover. When the fire moves over you faster than you can escape it, rolls across the creek while everyone is submerged. The people with burns on their arms and faces keep their heads under until the initial wave passes. Hopkins gets back on the radio. They're alive, but the fire is now critical. It will reach Paradise. It's not a possibility anymore. It's a certainty. Back in Paradise, parents are already at Ponderosa Elementary pulling their kids out of school. The teachers are calling families. But a lot of these kids' parents work out of town or can't make it through the gridlock that's already building on every road out. The principal makes the call. They can't wait any longer. They send an email to parents and start gathering the kids who can't be picked up. There are 22 children who have nowhere to go. The principal calls the bus depot. Ruby gets on the radio and asks for volunteers. Every other driver reports being full or already headed out of the evacuation zone. There's a beat of silence on the radio. Then Kevin comes on. 963 to base. I can get him. He's still on the east side of town. He's running late, which for once in his life is exactly the right thing to have been. Ruby tells him if he gets those kids out, he will have done well. Kevin says copy that and floors it. He pulls up to Ponderosa Elementary and meets Mary. She's a teacher, not from this school, but from another one nearby, whose own son Jake is 15, same age as Sean, and whose husband is out of town for work. Her sister has gone to get Jake. She tells herself he'll be fine. Mary is organized, calm, and excellent with children. She gets the kids into 2 straight lines, shortest in front, tallest in the back, and walks them to the bus one by one while ash falls out of the sky. One parent races in at the last second to grab her son, and they almost lose count. Kevin tells Mary he'll drop the kids at the alternative collection point, Paradise Elementary, just outside the evacuation zone, and then he has to get back to his own son in Magalia. He can't stay. He's got his own family. Mary says she'll lock up and get a ride with the other teachers. Kevin looks at her. He looks at 22 children. He says no, you're coming with me. There's no way he can manage these kids alone while driving a bus through a wildfire. Mary knows he's right. She leaves the principal to lock up and gets on. The doors close. Mary hands Kevin the official school evacuation route, Pence Road South, then right on Pearson, straight to Paradise Elementary. It's the plan. You follow the plan. Kevin looks out the window at Pence Road. It is completely gridlocked. Oh, cars bumper to bumper, moving at a crawl. He looks at the smoke column billowing over the canyon. Massive, dark, moving fast. He looks at the route. He says, "I don't think it's a good idea." Mary says they stick to the plan. Kevin says, "Whatever you say, teach," and gets on Pence. It doesn't move. Minutes pass. The fire is getting closer to the smoke. The smoke is getting closer to the road, and the bus sits in traffic like every other car. Kevin is vibrating with impatience. He can see what's about to happen, and nobody around him seems to see it. He makes a decision. Without warning, he cuts the wheel hard left and takes the bus off Pence onto Clark Road. Mary grabs the seat. The kids scream. A fire truck comes barreling toward them, and Kevin swerves just barely out of the way, close enough that the side mirrors almost touch. They make it. Clark Road is moving. Mary tells him to please ask before he does something like that again. Kevin says, "Do you want to get there, or do you want to go by the book?" Neither of them is entirely right. Both of them are entirely right. It's one of those arguments that only makes sense in a disaster, where the book exists for good reasons and the reasons have stopped applying. At the command center, while Chief Martinez is watching the situation escalate beyond anything his resources can handle. 30,000 people are still in the footprint of the fire. Air tankers are in the air dropping flame retardant, but the wind is so strong that the drops are barely hitting their targets. He calls for 50 additional strike teams. The dispatcher tells him minimum 2 to 3 hours. He doesn't have 2 to 3 hours. The hospital's cardiology wing is on fire. Patients are being evacuated from a burning building. Power lines are coming down across the evacuation routes, blocking cars, arcing dangerously even after PG&E claims to have shut everything off. The chief confronts the PG&E representative. "You told me the power was off." The representative explains there are automatic circuits and then manual switches. And the manual switches haven't all been thrown yet. The chief, who has people dying in his town, responds with appropriate fury and tells him to shut the entire grid down right now. Active power lines are still arcing in the streets. Cars are driving over them. Firefighters are cutting them by hand. The evacuation routes are failing one by one. Pence Road is gridlocked. Clark Road is catching fire. Skyway is moving slowly but barely. Martinez makes the announcement that no incident commander wants to make. Cease firefighting. Stop trying to save the town. Save the people. That's all they can do now. He then steps outside to a press conference and says, "And I want you to hear this clearly because it's the moment the movie stops being just a disaster story and becomes something with a point." He says, "Every year the fires get bigger. All right, there's more of them. We're being damn fools." That's it. That's the editorial. He walks away. Back on the bus, things are getting dangerous in ways that keep compounding. The alternative collection point at Paradise Elementary, the place Kevin and Mary are driving toward with 22 children, is on fire by the time they get close. There's nobody there, no parents, no officials, no one waiting. One of the kids won't come out from under her seat. A girl named Ava has curled herself into a ball on the floor of the bus, too frightened to move. Mary gets down there with her. She doesn't tell her it's fine. She doesn't dismiss the fear. She says, "I'm scared too. Can I give you a hug?" Ava says yes. Mary holds her and says, "Be as brave as you can be." And Ava gets up. That's teaching. That moment is the whole movie in miniature. Not false comfort, not empty reassurance, just honesty and presence. Kevin decides to push toward Chico, the city 15 miles southwest. That's where the evacuation center is. That's the only safe point left. He maps 2 possible routes: Skyway Road, which is wide and 4 lanes, or Row Road, which is narrow, winding, full of 180-degree turns, and not built for a 35,000-pound bus. They take Skyway. Skyway is blocked. Power lines are falling across the road. A cascade of wooden poles begins dropping like dominoes, each one pulling the next, sparks arcing onto the pavement. Kevin has to make split-second turns to avoid them, threading the bus between falling infrastructure while kids scream and Mary calls out clearances from the passenger side like a co-pilot. Then the looters appear. A group of men, desperate or opportunistic or both. In a disaster, the line between those things blurs badly, surround the bus in the gridlock. One of them has managed to get his fingers in the door and is trying to force it open. He has a gun. Kevin is fighting the door from the driver's seat, kicking it shut, yelling at Mary to look for a gap in traffic. She finds one on the left. Kevin yanks the wheel and they escape. Now Skyway is fully blocked. Their only option is Row Road, the route Kevin said no bus should ever take. It gets quiet on the bus in that particular way where quiet is worse than noise. The kids are overheating. The smoke starts coming through the air conditioning vents. Thick, acrid smoke that makes the children cough and wheeze. Kevin shuts the AC off. That stops the smoke but makes the heat worse. A girl named Shannon starts showing signs of heat stroke, wheezing, struggling to breathe. Mary says, "Kevin, we have to find water. There's no store. There's no functioning anything." She makes the call herself. She'll get off the bus and find water in the surrounding buildings and RVs while Kevin keeps the engine running. If the fire gets too close, he drives. He doesn't wait for her. She runs out into the smoke alone. The kids watch her disappear. Kevin watches the fire. A gas tank somewhere nearby is heating up and he can hear it, the pressure building, and he starts yelling Mary's name into the smoke. The gas tank explodes. The kids start crying, certain their teacher is dead. Then Mary comes stumbling back out of the smoke carrying water bottles, coughing, half blinded by ash. She'd broken into an RV when she'd spotted other survivors running and had to hide from them so they wouldn't take the water by force. She made it back. Kevin drives. They reach Row Road, narrow, winding, barely 2 lanes wide. Mary leans out and calls his clearances, 2 feet on the left, 2.5 on the right, while Kevin navigates a bus that wasn't designed for this road in any universe. At the command center, a firefighter is giving the chief an update on Row Road specifically. Both the Butte Creek Canyon fire and the West Branch fire have merged. The unified fire is burning southwest, exactly the direction the bus is heading, and the area around Foster Road and Row Road is about to be fully engulfed. The chief asks what resources they have for that area. Nothing. Zero. Every engine, every crew, every resource is deployed elsewhere. Whatever is on Row Road is on its own. Kevin gets out of the bus to check the ridge ahead of them on foot. He climbs far enough to see in every direction. Fire to the north, fire to the south, fire to the east, fire to the west. He comes back and tells Mary. He says, "We stay on the bus. That's our only chance." Mary looks at him. She asks what happens if the fire comes to them. What do they do with the kids if the fire comes? He doesn't have an answer to that. He just says stay on the bus. It's the one place the fire isn't right now. She agrees. They stay. What follows is the most human part of this story. 2 strangers, trapped with 22 children, waiting to find out if they're going to live. Kevin cuts his shirt into strips. He wets them with the last of their water and hands them to the kids as makeshift smoke filters. He moves all the children to the back of the bus, away from the vents. He tapes the vents with whatever he can find. He tells the kids not to touch the windows because the glass is getting too hot. A little boy asks, "Is it nighttime?" Kevin says, "No, buddy. It's just the smoke between us and the sunshine. The sun is still up there." A little girl says she wants her daddy. Kevin says he's trying his best. He knows you do. And he says it like someone who understands exactly what it means to be a father trying his best from the wrong side of a phone call. In the waiting, Kevin and Mary talk. Really talk, the way people do when they think it might be their last conversation. Mary says she's only left Paradise once in her whole life. Ohio for 2 weeks and 1 weekend in San Francisco with her husband. Like she thought if she followed the rules and stayed close and didn't take risks, nothing truly bad could happen. She realizes sitting here in a bus surrounded by fire that this is not, in fact, how life works. She says if they get out of this, she wants to take her son Jake to Legoland, or Africa. She wants to see elephants at a watering hole. Just something outside the radius of her own small certainties. Kevin laughs a little. He says he spent his whole life trying to escape Paradise, and now, for some reason, all he wants is to go back and try harder. Then he tells her about his father, how they hadn't spoken in 28 years, not since a Christmas Eve fight when Kevin was 16. The same kind of fight, he says, that he was having with Sean just yesterday. His father said something unforgivable. Kevin slammed the door and cursed his name and told him he never wanted to see him again. His father said, "I wish you were dead." For years, Kevin carried that with pride, then with shame. A few months ago, his mother called from Paradise and said his dad was sick. Kevin drove through the night. He got there that morning. His father had died that morning. He missed him by hours. "I was too late as a son," Kevin says, "and now I'm too late as a father." Mary says, "It's not too late. It's up to you." Then the fire comes to them. Flames break out in the back of the bus. Not from outside, from underneath, igniting through the floor. Kevin grabs the fire extinguisher and battles it. Mary grabs the spray and helps. Between the two of them, they put it out. But the extinguisher is empty now. There's nothing left. More fire. Behind the bus this time, bigger. Kevin goes outside with his jacket and tries to fight it with fabric, which is essentially insane, and he burns his hand. He watches the trees on the ridge begin to fall toward the road. He gets back on the bus. He says, "We have to drive through it." He turns the key. The bus won't start. Just silence. Not even a cough. The engine is dead. Kevin tells Mary to take the wheel. He gets out. The fire is approaching the road. He's outside the bus in the smoke, fighting with a broken engine, while 22 kids and a teacher sit inside watching through the windows. He's yelling instructions to Mary. She's yelling back. The kids are crying. He does something to the engine. The movie doesn't tell us exactly what. It just shows us a man refusing to stop, and he yells, "Try it now." The engine starts. Kevin runs back inside and drives. What happens next is 2 solid minutes of the most claustrophobic cinema I can describe to you. The bus drives through the fire, not around it, through it. The windshield is cracking from the heat. The road on both sides is burning. Kevin drives by memory and instinct because you can't see more than 10 feet in any direction. Kids are screaming. Mary is screaming. Kevin is yelling back and the bus just keeps moving. Then, light, not firelight, sunlight, real sunlight, pale and clear and coming from the direction of Chico. The bus comes out the other side of the fire and onto open road and everyone just breaks down. Kids crying, Mary crying, Kevin breathing so hard he can barely keep his hands on the wheel. They follow the emergency lights to the evacuation center at the Chico Fairgrounds, 15 miles from Paradise. When the parents see the bus, singed and cracked and battered, they run toward it. The kids come down the steps and fall into their parents' arms one by one. Kevin stands at the door and counts them out. 13, 14, 15. All 22 kids make it. Mary finds her son Jake. Her sister got him out. Kevin asks an aid worker at the registration desk about Sherry and Sean McKay from Magalia. The worker checks and says their names aren't on the list. Kevin goes to the medical tents. He walks through the rows of the displaced and the injured and the exhausted, looking for his family. He finds his mother sitting in a folding chair. His neighbor Carl got her out. Sean, she tells him, left before the evacuation. He decided to go back to his mother's house. He's safe. He's with Linda. He's happiest there. Wine and Kevin has to sit with that. His son is safe. His son is also, in a real and painful way, telling him something. He's not ready to hear it all the way yet, but he nods, and his mother holds his hand, and he lets himself believe that Sean being safe is enough for right now. Here's what the movie tells us in the credits. In plain text, the campfire, which is what this fire was actually called, started on November 8, 2018 at 6:33 in the morning from a failed PG and E-transmission line near Polga Bridge. It burned 153,336 acres. It destroyed 18,804 structures. It killed 85 people, making it the deadliest wildfire in California history. PG&E was found responsible. The company was charged with 84 counts of involuntary manslaughter and ultimately paid $13.5 billion in settlements to the victims of the campfire and other fires caused by their infrastructure. The town of Paradise has not fully recovered. It probably never will be what it was. Kevin McKay, the real Kevin McKay, went back to school after the fire. He became a teacher. He still teaches today. Mary Ludwig is still at her school. She travels now, more than she used to. I think the reason this story holds together is because it refuses to be only about the fire. It's about all the small failures that precede catastrophe. A power company that knew about its failing infrastructure and didn't act fast enough. An alert system that broke at the worst possible moment. New evacuation routes designed for a normal emergency and not for a fire that moved at 80 miles per hour. It's about institutions failing people and one bus driver with a broken relationship with his son and a dead dog and a mountain of debt who drove back into the burning town anyway. Kevin didn't have to take that call. Every other driver said no. He said yes, probably because saying yes to things was one of the few ways he still knew how to be a good person. It turned out to be enough. If this one hit different for you, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. Thanks for watching.